It is time for another vlog. And in case you're wondering, Coburns, I looked all over your gaming channel. I don't see these vlogs. Where are they coming from? Well, I have another channel. The GoBurns Vlogs channel, formerly the GoBurns VNR channel, formerly GoBurns Vlogs, and blah, blah, blah. Anyways, that's where you can find my vlogs. It's over in the featured channel section, also linked below in the description section. And we do take requests for vlogs. In case there's a vlog I've yet to do, be sure and check the playlist first. So if there's a vlog suggestion that you have for me, feel free and send it my way via the comment section, Twitter, Facebook, or Discord. All of my social media linked below in the description section. And if there happens to be a vlog that is very personal to you, and you don't really want people to know it was you that made the suggestion, you want to keep it anonymous, that's perfectly fine. DM that to me via Twitter or private message me on Facebook and just let me know that you want it to be an anonymous vlog suggestion, and I'll be more than happy to do so. But once again, make sure that I haven't already done the vlog already, because, you know, I've done quite a few vlogs so far, and that's quite an accomplishment. Speaking of accomplishments, that's what we're talking about today, because a lot of times we're very, very negative. We're quick to criticize ourselves. And, I mean, that's not really a bad thing, because it's important to stay humble and to realize that, you know, our you-know-what does not smell like roses, that none of us are gods. We're all imperfect beings, flawed. We make mistakes every single day. And we fail more times than we succeed. And yes, I did a vlog about success and failure. But it's important to also be positive. It's also necessary for us to think about the accomplishments that we have made in our lives and in the lives of others around us, be it our friends and families, as well as, you know, those people we don't even realize that we have accomplished some sort of, you know, important impact on them by simply existing in this world. So the entire point of this vlog is, you know, positivity, because I've noticed that a lot of times we all tend to, if we're allowed to, you know, just beat ourselves into the ground. And I do it all the time, and it's not always healthy. Sometimes it's good to have a little self-criticism, to critique, to always strive to do better. But it's also very important for us to take a little bit of pride in what we have accomplished in life. And feel free and let me know some of the things you're most proud of accomplishing below in the comment section if you do not have a vlog suggestion. And it could be anything at all. You know, something that most people would take for granted, that is a struggle for you every day, but you managed to accomplish it. You know, feel free and chime in. Let us know what you're most proud of accomplishing. And that'd be very interesting to see. Because we all have our own, I guess, bar as to what we consider to be an accomplishment. And those of you reading in the comment sections, and if you see people's accomplishments, however big or small they happen to be, just realize that to them, that was an accomplishment. Now let's go over the list of accomplishments I wrote down, and a lot of these are going to be the very same accomplishments for you, and they're worth noting. They're worth realizing that these too are accomplishments. First off, actually being conceived and born. Now, we don't want to, you know, go into Sex Ed 101, but at the same time, most of you statistically know the science behind, you know, fertilization, and the fact that, you know, there's like a lot of sperm that heads towards the egg, and only one of those little sperm cells actually, you know, wins the race. And that sperm was you. You already won a race the moment you were conceived. And the fact that you made it through 9 months, or maybe even a little less than 9 months, the point is you were born. And that's definitely another accomplishment. The fact that we are all here right now, that you were born, that you got to, you know, breathe air, and you got to cry, and you got to, you know, eventually do these other accomplishments, like go from laying in a crib all helpless to eventually learning how to crawl, to learning how to walk, and even talk, from the simplest words of mama and daddy to I plead the fifth and I did not have sex with that woman. The point is, you know, talking is quite an accomplishment, and it's one that a lot of people have still yet to master, including myself. The ability to use the bathroom on your own, because up to a certain point, your parents are kind of taking care of that business for you. You know, it's a good thing that somebody invented diapers. But eventually, you get potty trained and you start learning how to take care of that by yourself. And that is definitely an accomplishment, especially when you're like having lunch with a friend over the weekend and you have a live stream coming up and you realize that, oh, I've got to take care of business. And you got to get home in the hopes that you make it home in time before, an accident happens. And when you do make it home and you're actually able to, take care of said business without said accident occurring, that is definitely a sense of accomplishment. Or when you're doing a podcast, for example, with your friends, Carrick, Reg, Silver, and others over at ACG. Carrick's awesome YouTube channel where he does some of the best reviews of indie and AAA games. And you're in the middle of the podcast and you realize, number one is calling to you again because you drink too much freaking water. And you manage to hold it for the duration of the podcast without it getting a little wet downstairs. That too is an accomplishment. Yep, especially on road trips. So yeah, the simple idea of being able to use the bathroom on your own and hold it till you get to a place where you can make the quote-unquote deposit for 1 or 2, I would consider that an accomplishment. And of course, the next accomplishment is when we get to the point where we can actually, start to somewhat take care of ourselves. Like hygiene, like brushing our teeth, washing our hands, which is very important, especially during flu season like it is right now in the States. So, sanitizing, washing your hands, taking showers, scrubbing all your parts, and washing your hair and all that. Kind of important, and it's an accomplishment every day to do that in order to maintain good hygiene, as well as the ability to put on clothes by yourself. Because when you're younger, to a certain point, once again, you have to be dressed by mommy and daddy or your foster parents if you're, a long son or daughter from Krypton or whatever. But eventually you do also accomplish the ability to put on your own clothes. Even if at, well into your adulthood, you have no sense of style. You don't even know what the hell you're doing depending on what you wear. At least you have the ability to put on some clothes and some pants and a shirt and actually go out in public, right? So yes, once again, the ability to actually put on some clothes is an accomplishment. But you also need to know how to tie your shoes. You need to know left from right. So you need to know which shoe is your left shoe and which shoe is your right shoe, because you have a left foot, you have a right foot, and you want to make sure that you put the right shoe on the right foot and the left foot on the left foot. And of course, the ability, unless you're into Velcro, or just boots, most of us have to tie our shoes. And when I was younger, it took me a while to learn how to tie my shoes because unfortunately, my dad was busy working at the time. My mom passed away when I was very young. And there were some things that my dad wasn't able to teach me. My stepmom, my sister's mother, by the way, she taught me how to tie my shoes, as well as eventually a few other things as well. So, yeah. And this is no criticism to my dad, rest in peace, Dad, because my dad's gone as well. And that's an accomplishment that I am still here despite the fact that both my parents are gone. Fortunately, my dad was around for a lot longer than my mom, even if there were times when he was kind of a pain, but that's parents for you. But at the same time, I was kind of a slow learner when I was very young. And I made several inroads in accomplishing things that others in my age had already done, like the ability to, tell right from left, or colors, or the alphabet, for example. And like I said, the ability to tie your shoes. It took me a while to learn how to tie my shoes and to ride a bicycle. There was a time when I had to have tricycles. The training wheels. That's what, not tricycles. I mean, anyone can use a tricycle just about. And I did have tricycles too, but I had to have training wheels for my bicycle. Probably a little bit longer than most kids my age, but eventually I was able to learn how to ride a bicycle without training wheels, so that definitely is an accomplishment, as well as the ability to tie shoes, which I still know how to do today. And reading is an accomplishment too, because a lot of people out there don't know how to read, and like I said, it was some time before I started learning how to read because I wasn't put in preschool. I mean, eventually I did catch on. I am a fast learner. Once I pick something up, I'm quick to learn it. So I was able to learn how to read, learn my ABCs. And it's something that people, think is easy. But there is a time in your life when it wasn't easy, where it was a challenge to learn your ABCs, to learn basic words, and then go from basic words to more complex words, and to learn what these words mean and how they work in sentences, paragraphs, as well as proper pronunciation, which I still struggle with. Sometimes I get semicolons right, sometimes I use them incorrectly, sometimes I have run-on sentences, sometimes I use the wrong word, even though if it sounds similar. Sometimes, even with the power of a word, I do misspell words. It still happens. But fortunately, technology is quite helpful in that capacity. But the ability to actually read and even write and even type up a few words and make something out of it, even if sometimes it's BS and nonsense, in my opinion, it's a form of an accomplishment, along with basic math. Now, I'm absolutely horrible when it comes to algebra and geometry. I never even took a trig. Nope. It sounds like even more difficult than algebra. But like in high school, I didn't exactly have the best algebra teacher. She was also the bus driver because my high school back in East Texas, where I grew up, they care more for sports than they did for education. So they had coaches earning salaries, but they had to justify those salaries by giving them, like jobs in classes like history and geography. Now, some of the coaches were actually pretty good at the classes they taught, besides sports. But there were a few coaches, and like I said, there was a bus driver who also taught algebra. And, she wasn't a bad lady. She was a nice lady. The problem was, it's obvious that she shouldn't have been teaching algebra to begin with, because she would give you a good grade by simply doing the work. And I thought I was doing good in algebra because I answered all the questions. I would fill out the problem even though I was getting it wrong. But, the fact that I actually did something, there was like numbers and symbols on my homework and on my test scores, she would give me a pretty good grade. And when I got to geometry, turns out I didn't know shit about algebra at all. And I actually had a geometry teacher that knew what she was doing. And needless to say, it took me 3 years to pass geometry. I failed it 2 years in a row. And I had to really motivate myself to barely pass it, along with a few other classes my senior year. And that's another accomplishment for me, is the fact that despite the fact that I kind of got in a little bit of trouble in high school, made some mistakes, became kind of an outsider, if you will, and skipped a few classes, though I never got caught. Still, not really an accomplishment per se. But I finally got my act together, I would say somewhere in my junior year, and I decided, something, I kind of want to get out of this small town. I'm not from this town. I made some friends there, but this isn't where I'm meant to be. I don't want to live here. I don't want to spend another year in high school. I don't want to have to spend all these years like being in public school for nothing, because I had friends that actually dropped out their senior year, and it's just sad because then they had to go get a GED, which is less than a high school diploma. And you think about all that time you spent going to school, from kindergarten to primary school to elementary school to middle school to high school, and all the BS you had to deal with, especially when it came to like bullying or struggling to make good grades in class and all that other nonsense. So I decided in my junior year that I really wanted to, graduate high school. I wanted to make, some people proud of me. I wanted to, I guess you could say, turn myself around at that age. And I didn't want to stay in my hometown. And the only way I could do that was to get the hell out. And the only way to get the hell out was I had to graduate from high school. And so my junior year, somewhere in the middle, I decided to change course, to stop hanging out with the wrong crowd, to start getting back into school more, to start studying. It took me some effort because I was behind the times. I'd failed a few classes. I had to make up for it. And it was hard. It was very hard. But I managed to barely do it. I managed to barely make the grades in the classes I was struggling in. I barely passed, and I was able to graduate. And at the bottom of my class, not at the exact bottom, but almost at the bottom. I definitely wasn't a valedictorian, nowhere near the top. But the point is, I did graduate from high school, and I got a high school diploma. So that was definitely a accomplishment. Another accomplishment that happened during high school was the fact that I learned how to drive. And that's definitely something you need in the modern world, is the ability to drive, unless you live in a country that, you know, has, I guess, an impressive public transportation system like buses and trains and subways. And there's also countries, unfortunately, where it's very expensive to drive, and even if you wanted to drive or have a car, you can't afford it. But fortunately, I was able to learn how to drive. And what's interesting is that's not where I'm most proud of myself being a driver. I'm most proud of myself because of the fact that early on in high school, some short time after I got my, I think it was about a year after I officially got my driver's ed, and I made really good grades, and I impressed the instructors, by the way, with my driving skills even at an early age. I think it's because whenever I'd visit my grandfather, you know, he would let me like mow the lawn with his riding lawnmower, and I thought it was fun, but I was actually doing work for him. So I'd spend like an hour or so on his property mowing, you know, on his riding lawnmower. Well, at the same time, you know, he'd be telling me to go in a straight line and turn and back up and stuff. But even though he was getting something out of it, he didn't have to get out in the hot sun and mow his yard. His grandson did it for him. At the same time, his grandson, in a way, was kind of learning how to drive. And then eventually he would let me ride around on the four-wheeler. And then when we would go down to, you know, our ranch back in Southwest Texas, when my grandfather used to own a ranch, he would let me drive around in one of the ranch trucks and the Jeep. Of course, he would be there, you know, sitting, you know, beside me, you know, telling me what to do and what not to do. So I did have a little bit of an advantage when it came to driving. I mean, despite the fact I'm a horrible driver in video games, like in Grand Theft Auto Online, especially in racing. In real life, I'm a pretty decent driver. But anyways, about a year after I got my driver's license, I got pulled over for speeding on the back road I happen to live on. Now, in my defense, there never was a speed limit sign on my back road, except for when there was a tornado and I found a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on the side of the road, which I still have, by the way. But if it turns out that the speed limit on this back road I lived on in East Texas was 60 miles an hour. And according to the state trooper, he was kind of an asshole, by the way. I was going a little bit fast, and so he gave me a ticket. He didn't really accept my excuse at all. And to be honest, I don't blame him. He was still an asshole, though. So I had two choices. Either my insurance was going to go up, which means my grandfather, who was paying my insurance at the time, was going to be furious with me. Or I could not have my insurance go up, and I could take defensive driving. And I dreaded it because everyone's like, oh no, you gotta take defensive driving, that's horrible. Actually, I would say that taking defensive driving made me an even better driver. It helped me in ways that if you just took just took driver's ed, you possibly can't begin to understand or imagine, because you learn so much more about the importance of driving defensively in defensive driving than I did in driver's ed. Like in driver's ed, you learn about basic driving, you know, etiquette, like lights, which I obviously just ran, speed limits, which I disobeyed a few times over the years, and I've paid for it with various tickets that I've gotten. But you also learn about anticipating other drivers, being mindful of everyone around you, and some other things as well. So I would definitely encourage anybody that's new to driving, that may be taking driver's ed right now, or just recently passed driver's ed and are on the road. When you get an opportunity, whether it's some time over the summer between school, or like if you happen to also get a speeding ticket and you're in the same situation I was a long time ago, and the only way not to have that go on your insurance is to take defensive driving, don't pass up this opportunity, because you will learn how to become an even better driver with defensive driving. And to be honest, I really wish that defensive driving was also required for everybody after you got driver's ed. Like driver's ed would be the first step. You get your driver's license, but it's kind of like probationary. And then in order for it to become like a fully fledged like driver's license, you have to go do driver's ed too, because, like I said, driver's ed helped me in so many ways become a much better driver in the early years of me driving. The first year of me actually driving a vehicle on my own, I would say that I have avoided a lot of accidents and a lot of issues because of having to take defensive driving. So that was definitely an accomplishment for me. So yes, I accomplished that along with graduating from high school. Barely, but I still graduated. And so I was able to actually move out of my small hometown of East Texas to Louisiana, which is why I always say I'm a child of two states, because both sides of my family are from Louisiana. Both my parents were born and raised where I live in northwest Louisiana. And this is technically my home for all intents and purposes. But at the same time, I was born and raised in Texas, and my sisters live in Texas. So, child of two states, as I've always called myself. Now, one of my accomplishments going forward into adulthood was fulfilling my dream of going into radio. And I did a radio vlog already some time ago, so we won't touch too much on that. And this goes down to when you're at an age like that where like the sky's the limit and you have so many opportunities waiting for you when you're like 18, 19 in your early 20s, and there's something you really want to do in your life, go for it. Try and make it a reality. I mean, it may not work out in the end. You may never get to be a radio star. You may never get to be a big time radio morning show host or a program director or an operations manager or whatever it is you want to do. But you'll never know if you don't try. And yeah, you could end up actually fulfilling that dream of being a scientist or being, I don't know, an actress or an actor or a sports star. But I would say those dreams are a little too lofty and unrealistic. Not for everybody, but some people end up accomplishing that in life, and that's awesome. But at the same time, I'm talking about like more realistic things, like becoming like a store owner, or becoming a dentist like my baby sister and her husband. You know, that was an accomplishment on their part. You know, they went through a lot of school in order to eventually become dentists. And our doctors, our teachers, our scientists, or even becoming a mechanic, an electrician, and a plumber. That's an accomplishment because you have to learn how to do that. You have to go to trade school. You have to have an apprenticeship or whatever it takes. You know, that's an accomplishment. So whatever it is you think you want to do of your life career-wise, while you're still young and able to do so, I would suggest go for it. Try and make it a reality, because you never know. That may actually be the career you end up doing for the rest of your life, for the rest of your career. And I got to be in radio for about 5-6 years. It's unfortunate that that sun's in our way, so let me turn around. Turn around. And I still wish that I was in radio, but unfortunately there was like external issues, as I mentioned in the vlog, that prevented me from continuing to be in radio. For one thing, it doesn't pay so well unless you happen to have you're very popular and you have a really good morning show, and or you get high enough up in the ranks to where you can actually make a pretty decent income. But the other problem was a lack of experience. I mean, I had 5 years experience under my belt, but because of deregulation, the fact that you had corporations buying up companies, all these radio stations across the country, and downsizing, and it meant less jobs in the market that were available. That meant that somebody like me that had 5 years experience was going up against people with 15, 20 years experience, and they had way more connections than me. So yeah, it became very difficult for me to continue that career path. But at the same time, the fact that I took the time to intern while I was in college at a radio station, that I went from being an intern to hired as a part-timer to eventually doing overnights on air and nights, and even getting a job in various other stations. And the fact that eventually I became a music director as well as a night guy, a midday guy even. Those are accomplishments. Even if I'm no longer doing that with my life, still it's an accomplishment that I'm quite proud of, because I learned a lot in radio. A lot of the skills that I use on my channels are because of what I learned in radio. And the friends that I made back in radio, I still have, and they're some of my best friends. And I feel like that I really was molded from my radio experience. There's a lot of things that I learned that I didn't know about because of, my time in radio. So I don't regret those 5 years at all. I mean, like I said, I wish I could go back into radio. Maybe one day I will. Or maybe I'm meant to do something else in my life. I don't know. But either way, I still consider my radio career my accomplishment. And eventually I did actually finish my college. It took a while, off and on, basically part-timing. But eventually I did graduate. I actually do have a college degree, even if it really probably wouldn't do anything for me. It looks nice on a resume, but at the same time, it's an accomplishment in its own way because it meant that those hours that I spent in college, those credits I earned, and the money I spent, actually went towards something. I have a certificate. I have a college degree as well. And I guess it looks nice on my wall. So yeah, it's a sense of accomplishment. But college isn't for everybody. We kind of went over that in, I think, the education vlog. So not everyone has to go to a 2-year or 4-year college in order to be successful in life. My most recent accomplishment, I suppose you could say, is over the past year, I stopped drinking. I had kind of a drinking problem, and it had a negative effect on my health as well as my liver. And I stopped drinking back in March, and maybe I've had a couple drinks since then, but for the most part, I haven't really touched that. Maybe I would say 3 at the most over the past year, which I shouldn't have had at all. But the point is, I stopped, drinking every freaking day, and that was very bad. And not only that, the fact that I've been working out for over a year, and I've been trying to eat healthier, and I've actually lost some weight. I still got a ways to go. But at the same time, I am proud of that accomplishment, that I do feel better, even though, as you get older, there's still those getting older pains you have to deal with. And like I said, eventually I hope to lose even more weight. It's not a lot more weight I have to lose, probably about, I would say 20, 30 more pounds. But, it got to a point where it's kind of a plateau, so I think I need to add some more cardio to my routine. And cut back on burgers and pizza a little bit. I try, okay? I'm not 100%. I'm not a health eating extremist, but I do try to eat vegetables and fruit. The point is I'm trying, and I feel like that itself is an accomplishment. And another accomplishment I'm quite proud of is something that I've done most of my life, and I'm not trying to brag about this. And I'm not going to cite specifics because that would be bragging. Is that I have been able to help people in various ways, like friends and family that needed help, just to several levels and capacities. I'm quite proud of the fact that I actually helped them, that I quote unquote did my good deed for the week, as I would call it, because I always try to do something good for somebody else at least once a week, because there's always people in your life that need something, whether it's just somebody to talk to or somebody to buy lunch for, or something else. Maybe you have something that you don't need, and they're like, I really need this, and damn it, I broke my vacuum or something like that, and you just happen to have a vacuum you're not using, or something like that. I'm trying not to get into specifics, because then it gets rather ridiculous. You start making yourself like, oh, I'm such a great person, and I'm not a great person. But occasionally I do good things for other people, and to see that the positive impact in their lives as a result, that to me is an accomplishment. Not just for myself, but for them. Got my way, car. Horrible driver. But anyways, I feel like that's an accomplishment, because there are definitely those that I helped that under normal circumstances they had nowhere else to turn to, and because I helped them, it was able to give them just enough help for them to get out of certain situations. And the rest of it's on them, because they actually had to humble themselves and ask somebody else for help. And that's hard to do. It's very hard to go to somebody and ask for help in whatever form or capacity that happens to be. Now, I'm not talking about anybody that's just going to leech off you and use you, manipulate you. I'm talking about people that genuinely just needed help every once in a while. And to realize that by helping them, you actually see the positive result from helping them. And unfortunately, there are a few people that tried to help, and they do try to take advantage of you. There's always going to be people like that. So I would say help people to a certain point, especially don't help them to a point where it becomes a detriment to you. Because in the end of the day, we have to look out for ourselves. I mean, I hate to sound selfish, but we are living a first-person experience, and at the end of the day, you kind of have to take care of yourself first. But if you have the ability to help somebody else, somebody you care about, whether it's a friend or a family member, someone like that, then help them if you can. But if you can't, then you just can't. Sometimes you can't, and sometimes I haven't been able to help everybody, but I do try to make some sort of difference in the lives of the people that I'm closest to. And hopefully I've done that with you guys, my awesome viewers, subscribers, and fans. And some of you have even told me that in messages and emails and tweets and in the comment sections, and I really do appreciate that. I'm glad that these vlogs have been helpful for you guys, and that's a big reason why I continue to do the vlogs, because I feel like that it allows me a way to open myself up to you, my family, my friends, subscribers, and in a way that normally I don't, while at the same time possibly even helping you in the process if you're going over an issue or a problem in your life that maybe one of my vlogs can hopefully help you with. So I do consider my vlogs to be somewhat of an accomplishment. I realize that they don't get watched by as many people as my gaming content. That's not the point. The point is, at least they help somebody, hopefully. Even if it's just one person that's helped in the vlogs that I make. At least that's one more person that's positively affected. And that's what matters to me. And, of course, my most recent accomplishment is the fact that on my other channel, we have now got over 6,000 subscribers. Now, there are channels that have obviously grown faster than mine for whatever rhyme or reason. Whether it's dumb luck or they just know the game better than me, when it comes to the right things to do in order to grow a YouTube channel. They're more focused. Maybe they're better than me. I mean, that is also a reality. I don't claim to be the best content creator ever. Hopefully I'm not the worst, but I do try to get better. And I'm quite proud of everything that I've done over the nearly past 4 years of the gaming channel. All the hard work I put into it, which started off as a hobby, a passion, a fusion between my love of gaming since I was a child, as well as the skills and the tools I learned while in radio, along with various other YouTube channels that I've been behind over the years. I've created a few of my own, and I've even helped out with a couple as well when it comes to content creation on YouTube, and I've learned a lot since then. And that's been like nearly a decade of me creating various channels on YouTube, and a few of them are still around. I think even my oldest one's still around, and I don't even talk about that one. It just has some random nonsense on it. No, I'm not talking about the political channel, which I guess you could say also has random nonsense, but at the same time, I am quite accomplished with the fact that I have learned so much, skill-wise and knowledge-wise, because I had to. I had to learn how to get the right equipment. I had to learn how to, size the thumb correctly and how to create thumbs and the thumbs that worked, the thumb ideas that didn't work. Video editing. I've come a long ways in video editing than when I started this channel not this channel, the other channel nearly 4 years ago. So I'm quite proud about the improvement in the quality of the content that I've made. And you can go back to the first videos over on that channel from 4 years ago, and you can see how far I've come in that regard. So that just shows you that if you really want to do something in your life, you really want to learn a new skill, whether it's content creating or playing an instrument or art, for example. You want to learn how to become a better painter or a sculptor, any skill like that, or working out. I look in the mirror, and even though I still got a spare tire downstairs, you look upstairs, I got a bit of muscle on me. I've got some guns now, and I'm quite proud of that. So it just takes time. It takes dedication. It takes the passion and wanting to learn, because you don't learn all these skills overnight. You don't become an awesome content creator or an awesome gym rat or like a freaking Vincent Van Gogh or master artist or musician like tomorrow. It takes time to learn these skills and achieve these accomplishments, and that's the same for everything else in life. And I'm quite proud of the accomplishments I've done so far, and I I sincerely hope that I continue to accomplish things. And hopefully I will continue to accomplish being a better driver in real life than I am in a video game.